What's going on, everybody? It's Garrett here for What is Smart. What is Smart is brought to you by Thinkering Media, our brand new partner in humanizing education. We're excited to be sponsored and promoted by Thinkering Media and the work it does for education. Guys, I'm clearly in a laboratory with scientists and researchers and amazing human beings with big brains trying to figure out how Timmy, who's a kinesthetic learner in a 5-year-old classroom, can thrive and be successful. And we want that for all children. So we're doing the work on the ground to inform real change. We have an amazing guest coming up. Lauren Kaufman is here with us today. Let's get into it. Welcome to What is Smart, where we explore innovative and impactful approaches to education. Today, we're honored to have Lauren Kaufman with us. Lauren is the Director of Literacy K-12 for a school district in Long Island, New York, bringing nearly 2 decades. I feel like that needs to be a club, and I'm in it.
Yes, we are old.
2 decades of experience in education. Her diverse roles have included assistant principal, instructional coach, reading specialist, new teacher mentor coordinator, and classroom teacher for 2nd and 5th grades. Lauren is passionate about empowering teachers to lead and develop lifelong literacy practices in learners. She has led the development of 73 units of study in reading and writing in K-5 and has provided job-embedded professional learning to educators. Lauren has also organized Long Beach Literacy Day and presented at numerous local and national conferences. Join us as we delve into her insights and experiences in literacy education. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Garrett. I'm honored that you invited me.
Yeah, no, we're, like I said in the pre-chat, we have folks out there trying to find folks like you doing great work that we see as the future of education or a piece of the future of education. And so we're really excited to have you on the show today. And we always get the show, Lauren, started off with a little bit of an origin story. I was a comic book dork growing up. I think of it as like the X-Men #1. How did you get into education? We see these kind of staple stories of you either had an educator that inspired you, you are a generational educator, or like me, you do it because you are jaded and you want to see change. So what is your story?
So thank you for asking me that. My path to education has been quite the journey. It started as a little girl, actually, because both my parents were educators. My grandfather was an educator. So I really got to see them cultivate this love of learning, and they were so student-centered. And all I saw is them talking about their students and how excited they were when their students had those aha moments. And then also they taught in the community I grew up. So it was kind of cool getting out there with my parents, and all of their students would run up to them and say, hey, how have you been? And, you were my favorite teacher. And I thought that was kind of cool because, I looked up to my parents, but seeing other generations of kids look up to my parents too was kind of cool. I also had an incredible experience with different mentors and teachers along my path. My 4th grade teacher in particular, Mrs. Linda Roth, was one of the reasons I wanted to become an educator, aside from my parents, of course. Mrs. Roth has been with me since I've been in 4th grade. She's still with me to this day. She retired as an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and she's my mentor today. When I started going on all of my administrator interviews, she was with me every step of the way. I called her up. I said, we lost touch for 30 years, but then I said, hey, would you mind helping me? You made such a great impact on me. So much so that she even wrote in the book that I just published. I have a new book out, which launched on Amazon a couple of weeks ago. And it is kind of special that she's one of the contributors in the book. And there's a lot of stories about our path and our journey together, which is quite unique. But I've served in so many different roles in education. I was a teaching assistant. I was a classroom teacher, like you mentioned, a coach. The instructional coach role was really cool because I got to step out of the walls of my classroom and really look at things from a macro perspective. and go into all these classrooms and see that's where the magic happens. That's where the legacy is left behind, in my opinion. I'm the only administrator in my family, so it was funny when I took that leap into formal leadership role. My family was like, "Are you sure you want to do this, Lauren?" The magic happens in the classroom, but
That's right.
when I was in that instructional coach role, it was a great opportunity to see all of that goodness happening in different classrooms around my school district, and then to be able to cross-pollinate those ideas with others was just so magical. And then take everything I learned and be thought partners with teachers, and that's where I got a little taste of leadership. So that's when I kind of decided to take the formal leap into leadership. And, I took everything I had learned over the course of 15 years on the front lines, and I became a building leader. And now I'm a district leader. I really love to lead through a coaching lens. That's what I'm all about. My heart is in the classroom. I have big love for educators. You could see why from the stories I've
Yeah.
shared. The goal for me is that, we are all here to work together, because the heart of everything we do is kids. We
Amen.
are, leaving legacies in the hearts and minds of kids, and we want to row in that direction together and work together to make those great things happen. So that's really what I'm all
Love it.
about. For me, it's about recognizing gifts in others, bringing out their best, and that so they can recognize gifts in others and then pay it forward. And that's how we cultivate the next leaders of tomorrow, right? The next thought leaders, and
That's right.
prepare our kids for jobs that don't even exist yet, right?
I mean, you're speaking my language, and thank you so much. What a great story. I think, of all of the different profiles that I've heard, you like encompass a lot of different ones. So it's very motivated educator and very motivated leader. Now, first, I want to give you the opportunity to plug your new book. You mentioned it. Have you made that announcement, and if you're comfortable, so please let the viewers and listeners know what your book is called.
Sure. The book is called The Leader Inside, Stories of Mentorship to Inspire the Leader Within. I actually have a copy right here. And what was
Look
kind
at
of cool,
that.
right here. What was cool about this is, it launched actually a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it when it actually happened. It all happened so quickly, and during a very, very, very busy time for me. I was, moving a lot of priorities forward in a lot of different places, and this was one of them. And this is just such a book of heart. It's really a book that hopefully will empower others, and to see that there is a leader inside of you. It doesn't matter what level in an organization you serve in. For me, if you are working with kids, you are a leader, you are a role model. We want to model what we want to see. So the book really encompasses a lot of research and story. I love storytelling, and then practical ideas that educators and leaders alike can implement tomorrow. It's heavily grounded in the path to leadership. So for those who are teacher leaders or aspiring leaders, or even leaders who are currently serving informal leadership roles, there's a heavy part around mentorship and the power of mentorship. I facilitated the mentor program in my prior district. So I talk about all different ways to create a strong foundation for new teachers so that they can have a long, meaningful career. That's really important, that we retain great educators and that they can pay it forward. So all about how to set up a great mentor program in your own school district, a lot of ideas for that. And then there are a lot of stories of impact and courage. I actually brought in 5 contributors to this book, all of who I know very well, personally and professionally. And that was important to me for this book, because I think it's kind of cool when I'm reading a book where I'm not only reading one perspective, but other voices are being spotlighted, and readers can see, there's not a linear path to success, however you just define your own success to be. It happens a little bit differently for everyone. So I have Lainey Rowell, who's a great
Oh,
friend.
very
She's in
cool.
the
I had
book.
her on. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yep.
she's a great friend, thought leader, and awesome educator. She's in the book. I've got Stephanie Brockstein, another rock star educator. Natasha Nurse, I served as an instructional coach with her years ago, a very special person. Linda Roth, my teacher, who I mentioned earlier. And then Megan Lawson, who is a fantastic, prolific writer, who is the closer of a book. I close the book, but she's the closer of the contributors, and she speaks in quotes, Megan Lawson. She's just a phenomenal leader,
speaks in quotes.
Yeah, she does. She does. Everything she says, it's just phenomenal. So that's really the book. I'm excited it's out there because, you know, I was really very honest in the book, and I wanted to share my journey, and I wanted to speak to the readers as if I am walking right beside you on your path, whatever path that might be. I am right there beside you because I believe that everybody has gifts that are just waiting to be unwrapped at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. And
Amen.
Yeah, and some people have discovered that and have had those interactions throughout their lives. Some are waiting, maybe for those team members they haven't even met yet, but will have a significant impact on their story. And I want to share that even those unfavorable interactions that we have in our path, those are important too, because they help us discover the people maybe that we don't want to be, and we learn those lessons from those experiences as well. So, you know, it's kind of cool to see. I've been getting messages from people reading the book. I'm starting to see it pop up on social media, and it's just kind of cool. It was a book of heart. And it's just so cool to see it resonating with people in all different ways.
That's so well said. And one of the things I was thinking of is like people that challenge you tend to be mirrors for you to be more self-aware, right? Like, and self-awareness, talking about what is smart, is something that comes up a lot. Is, you know, the more someone is aware of who they are, how they learn, what they're great at, what they're not great at, the more power and empowerment they go into the world with. And that's, you know, such an important role to start. And again, something that you had even mentioned is when you start at the leadership level and you trickle those characteristics, those traits, those values that lead to a self-awareness and understanding of how to even manage your time as an educator, manage the classroom as an educator, all of those things end up then showing up in your learners, because osmosis is the best possible way for our learners in our classrooms to understand the things we want to see in them, to be prepared for the future. And as you and I both know, it's this moving away almost from content curriculum and much more towards these soft skills and the grit and empathy and compassion that you need to collaborate with others and to accept and understand the world. And that leads me to my next question, which is, you know, pivoting from leadership to literacy. Part of your work has been in literacy, and I think it's fascinating and wonderful. I also think about the future of learning. And so, has there been changes to the way we approach literacy from when I was going to school in the 80s, when it comes to how we understand what literacy is? Meaning back in the day, literacy was writing, and then we evolved to kind of typing. How has it evolved now into the future in teaching lifelong literacy?
Yeah, I think that is a very, very big question you just asked, because there is not a simple answer to this. And it looks different, you know, from the time, you know, kids are born, they are listening to language, and they are making sense of the world, and all the way through adulthood, for our whole lives, we are making sense of the world, right? And bringing what we know and our background knowledge and our experiences to the things we read, to the things we talk about, to the things we write about, right? So I think it's important, you know, this is a real big question, because literacy is the foundation of all learning, right?
That's right.
It transcends across everything we do, across content areas. So it's super important, Garrett, that we are setting our kids up, you know, from a very young age, with very explicit instruction in literacy, that are really grounded in the 6 big competencies and skills, which is around oral language, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. kids need to be explicitly taught how to read, how to decode, right? How to encode, how to listen for sounds, how to isolate, segment, blend words, all of those things. They need to crack the code because everything's grounded in comprehension, right? That comprehension is like getting to the top of the mountain and seeing the view. That's what reading is all about, right? But we can't do that unless we explicitly teach them those high leverage skills and provide explicit instruction in those areas, and then build that bridge to comprehension through fluency, right? Like we want to become those fluent readers so that we can really understand text. So it's all about, I think, building capacity with ourselves and our teachers. There's so much out there around literacy now that's spoken about, but it's really about also, you know, putting the right assessments in place so that we can identify what students need and then implement some high leverage practices and monitor how kids are doing. And then, well, what does that look like as kids progress? You know, the oral language piece I spoke about earlier, that's huge. Developing vocabulary and background knowledge and helping students transact and interact with texts that have more high level vocabulary that they may have not heard before so that they can understand and have conversations and dialogue. You know, Garrett, like I always say, if we can teach something, we've learned it. Right. So very, very important that when we are learning, you know, at a very young age, we are learning to read. And then as we get older, we're reading to learn. Right. So and it's like, how do we bridge those two? Right. So I think what you have is a very big question there. And then there's this whole component of digital literacy.
That's
and making sure that our students are equipped to handle technology that we have. There are so many technological tools now, and how are we leveraging them in this world we're living in, because that's not going away, right?
Nope.
And how do we also develop those soft skills that you were talking about, you know, those communication skills, those interpersonal skills, also honoring one another's perspectives in a very productive and meaningful way. You know, having dialogue around different topics and different discourse around different topics. Think deeply about different types of texts, whether it's literature or informational or content text. You know, how can we transact with those texts? How can we discuss? How can we
determine validity? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's you know, I don't think I have one answer to your question because it's multifaceted, multi-layered, but in my role, you know, I'm very much there as a facilitator of this learning. I am here to create structures and systems so that, you know, we can ensure that these things are happening in productive and meaningful ways. So
perfect. And honestly, I'm not going to ask the easy questions. And I really appreciate that answer because it is a multifaceted subject. And as I'm thinking, as you're talking, and I'm like, is she going to talk about digital literacy? And then that's what you bring up. So that's kind of why I brought that up, is because that term literacy is becoming more and more broad. And I think it's so important what you said. As a Montessori educator working in early learning, I taught literacy in a very phonetic, very kind of concrete way. And it was a magic thing to watch kiddos crack the code, I think is the best. But you have to lead them there. Folks think that literacy just happens innately. And one of the things that you pointed out is no, it's a learned skill. And if you are working towards teaching that skill, there are so many other facets of learning that you're building and scaffolding. One of those being, even in phonetic decoding, you know, is logic and critical thinking. You know, these are things that start at a very early age, and they open the world up to a learner, right? Like a learner that we have at 3, you know, it's a very different experience when you're able to read the signs that you see on the road, or, you know, like that opens a whole world of questions and curiosity for kids. And that is where I see the deepest learning happening, is authentic curiosity with kiddos. But the other thing that I heard you talk about, Lauren, was job embedded professional development. And one of the things that we're doing at the Gardens Foundation, of course, is building professional development experiences and higher curriculum experiences. But we know that it takes embodiment and alongside human to human coaching to really see some effect and change in the classroom. So how, as a district leader, do you scale some of those experiences? How do you provide those resources in a way where, being in charge of such a broad selection of schools, how do we scale that alongside when schools are still struggling to get resources across the country?
Yeah, that's another big question. Well, that's why I'm so committed to job embedded professional learning. And for your audience who's listening, who might not be as familiar with job embedded learning, basically it's, on demand in the field, on the front lines, and you're accessible to your educators, to your fellow leadership team at all times. And you're there not only to have people consume what you're trying
Rolling
to
the sleeves
deliver,
up.
but you're
Yeah.
having them also, you're going from consumption to creation to implementation, right? So, and then you're there to help them. You're in that feedback loop with people, and you're learning from each other. It's creating a true professional learning community where you are all there learning together. When you open the doors of schools, of organizations, to me, everybody is a teacher and a learner, from the kids to the leadership teams, to the teachers, to everybody in between, to the community. We are all there together to learn from one another. And we have to, in my opinion, we have to view ourselves as such. There is no one person who is the expert in everything. This work is too big. There are so many priorities in education to move forward that, for me, this job embedded learning is really tapping into the expertise of those around you. So many people have so many great experiences and ideas to bring forward. I couldn't do it without my colleagues. This education is not a one-man sport. You need to rely on that ecosystem of people around you and your sphere of influence, right? So, you have your sphere of influence, people who you can rely on and count on. And then you also have people maybe outside of your ecosystem who you also want to tap into, because maybe they're in other school districts and doing some other amazing things that you have not heard of or seen before. Or maybe you've heard of it, but you have not approached that type of instructional practice in that way. So going back to your question, what I think innovation is, Garrett, and making things priorities and practices that are high leverage and high impact move forward within your school systems, I really believe it's the small moves that have the big impact. As long as you have the vision, what is it that you are doing? Why are you doing it? And then how are you going to get there? Sometimes there are so many things on our plates in education, and we're not hungry. Our teachers are not hungry. They have a lot on their plate.
That's
So,
a hilarious way to put it.
Yeah.
They ain't hungry.
They're really not. It's like going to a buffet and you filled your plate with all the things you like, but then you get to a new food on the buffet line and you're like, oh, that looks kind of good too. I kind of want to try that. I want to put that on my plate, but there's no room. So you either have to take something off or you have to get another plate. And getting another plate isn't always a good idea, because then it's overflowing and you don't have any room on the table. So I like to use metaphors, right?
I love it. It's very, very good metaphor. Makes a very clear picture.
Yes. So, we really have to think about, what are the priorities we need to move forward? We have to think about what are some of the practices that work, some of maybe the traditional practice. Tradition doesn't mean bad, right? It just means because those practices might work for some of our kids in front of us.
That's right.
So it's all about knowing our learners, who are the heart of everything we do, who is in front of us. That looks different year to year. Having our bag of tricks, right? And taking something, to me, innovation is taking a practice and maybe tweaking it just to make it a little bit better. And to me, it's innovation is turning idea into action, right? So seeing how it works and then iterating constantly.
And hope I think you're spot on. I think if you can put that into your culture at your schools and even at the district level, if the culture is innovation, if the culture is iteration, you're already in a practice to where you might not nail it the first time, but you can always root back in, I'm working towards that experience being better. And that's honestly what we should be expecting from our kiddos in the classroom is like, hey, it's okay to fail. The school system itself has promoted this negative aspect of failure, you know, with the big F grade, and making kids feel less than when, you know, obviously you've heard the million terms and mindset and all of that. It's like you fail forward, you learn from failure. You either win or you learn. Like that's the
Yeah.
way we look at it. And I think we need to have more experiences like that and free up um, a better idea of what learning can look like within the classrooms. And I just think some of the work that you're doing, especially on the professional development side, gets granular. And I think that's so helpful for educators that could be what I think of as lost in the pizza sauce in their classrooms. Having diagnostic, you know, support is not only fueling a more personalized experience for the learner in the classroom of that educator, because they're feeling what it feels like to have a personalized coaching experience, but I think the fact that they know that you're there and that you can come in and provide meaningful help, I think is so amazing. So if you can do it, Lauren, then many other school district leaders across the country can feel empowered, right? And get her book, right? If you don't know the steps to empowering other educators and being a great leader, because that's what we need. Yes, we need teachers, but more importantly, we need great leaders, because it's those leaders that will inspire a new way, a way that's already happening within classrooms across the country, not all of them, but in amazing classrooms across the country. And, you know, sometimes we say even too, Lauren, like if you get jaded as an educator by the system, like I was, right? Like the system, you can always lean back in the fact that no matter what, within your classroom and within your four walls, you are unforgettable to maybe just one student in that classroom. That one student can be enough for you to keep going and to keep inspiring other learners to keep pushing. So yeah, I just think, again, some of the stuff you said were very much aligned and spot on. So I appreciate it so much. Now I have to ask you, Lauren, as we wrap up here on the podcast, you know, we ask every amazing educator, professional leader out there this big question. I think it's an important question to ask because the definition is so subjective, yet we hold kids accountable to kind of one understanding of that currently. So I ask you, Lauren, what is smart?
Smart starts with you. It's knowing who you are first.
Me personally, or you're like, yes, actually you.
Inside. It's looking inside yourself and thinking about what your core values are. You know, what is your purpose? What is your why? What makes you curious? What are you passionate about? It starts with you. You have to know who you are as a learner, what motivates you, what inspires you, so that you can help others. To me, smart is using and leveraging your expertise, and then sharing that with others and not being afraid, leading with hope and not fear. That is smart. We need fear though, because fear helps us push through the discomfort, and that's where the learning and the growth hope happens. So I think part of being smart is taking some of those risks and also not being afraid to take a step back sometimes. Sometimes you have to take a step back And that's not failing. That's looking at the view again and seeing, what is working, what is not working. Also, smart is bringing in others who can help you, asking for help. I think sometimes that's looked at as maybe, especially in leadership, some people might look at that as maybe you don't know what you're doing, if you have to ask for help. But if you ask for help, then you are working in a community of people who you're better together. That saying, great minds think alike. Well, I think great minds think better together, and
Amen.
sometimes great minds think differently, not alike. So I think that is smart, leveraging the people around you, knowing who you are as a person, as a learner, as a human being, as an educator, a leader, whoever you are. Who are you and what do you want to be? In the book, I say, Lauren, who is the leader you want to be? And my answer is the leader I always needed. You can ask that same question. Who is, the teacher you want to be? The teacher I always needed. Think about what you needed. We say that, someone says, I think it was Maya Angelou, I could be wrong with this quote, we write the books that we need, create the experiences you need,
That's so true.
Be the person who starts that movement, who implements that idea. What's an idea without implementation? So
it's so funny that you say that. I think you're, again, just spot on. But as a business person, so many people come to me and have ideas. And I'm the same way. I say ideas are nothing without execution. Like ideas are a dime a dozen. Everyone can have an idea, but do you have the ability to manifest that idea into reality? And I think part of that is the motivation for that comes in the success of that, and sometimes the failure of that. I think the other thing you said that was really powerful was we need fear. Fear is a tool, right? Fear, I always think of fear as like the audacity to think that people can predict the future. It's your brain kind of thinking all of these things can happen, so I'm going to, put up into fight or flight. But if you can leverage that, which is, I think what you're trying to say is like, you can use that fear. I always think fear and excitement, because they do live in the same part of your brain, right? So instead of saying, I'm afraid, I'm excited to do this. And that can really help motivate those that are afraid to jump in there and, like you said, create amazing experiences. Because that's what I think we do as educators across the world is we create an experience for our learners so that hopefully they leave with a continued love of learning, because I do feel that children are born with an intrinsic love of learning. And, unfortunately, how we structure things right now kind of can tend to push that out. So the more educators out there doing the work that you're doing, empowering other educators and learners in the classroom, the better, because we need that tone to change. And we have so much potential in the world. These kids are our literal future, friends. Like, take it seriously. They're our literal future. And I can tell that, Lauren, you take it extremely seriously.
Yeah, I do. And I do want to say this, a little plug for educators and leaders. There is so much goodness going on out there right now in education. And I just want to thank everybody for that, because without our educators and our leaders who create the conditions for things to happen, we can't cultivate those curious learners who feel excited and empowered to learn and to build that self-efficacy. So I just want to thank the educators and the leaders out there, because you're doing great things. And even a little baby step to trying something new is, a step in the right direction sometimes. And then sometimes it's not, and you back up and you reflect and you take a different step then. So I just wanted to put that out there, that the more educators I talk to today and the people I see and the things I do within my own organization and beyond, just incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, I fully second that love to all the teachers and school leaders out there, because I was a guy, as we had talked about in the beginning, pre-taping, it's like I was such a jaded person. And talk about you make the things that you need. It's like this podcast was something that I needed to remind me that, again, there are amazing, amazing, amazing people, and you're probably watching out there that are doing amazing work. So keep it up. And thanks again, Lauren, so much. We always like to give the viewers and listeners, how do they find you and find your book to go and buy it today? And if you don't buy it today, I'm coming for you. All right.
Oh, no.
All right.
Listen, so here's the thing. You can buy the book, The Leader Inside.
And do so.
It is on Amazon.
Please buy it.
It is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. But what I will say to everybody is I am a regular writer. I blog very often, weekly. I just put out a blog yesterday, actually. And go to my website, www.laurenmkaufman.com.
We'll put it up right here.
Yeah, great. And then, if you like my writing and you can get a little taste of it there, that's free. That's something you don't have to buy. Then you might want to buy the book. But you could also find me at Lauren M. Kaufman on the socials. And I'm always happy to connect with educators. I just love it because I think we're better together. We're here to grow one another and we're here to be thought partners. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. And please, please, please go to the website. And what I loved about your blog is the tone is real. And that's, you're welcome, because I think it's so important for educators that are going and seeking out help and knowledge, that the tone is felt. Because it's always terrible when you get those, very corporatized self-help books and things. It's just not, in my opinion, super helpful. But thank you so, so much for the work you're doing. We look forward to hopefully having you back on the show in the future to talk shop a little bit more. And yes, thank you to all the viewers and listeners out there for What is Smart. I'm Garrett Wilhelm. You will see me and another amazing guest on the next episode. Stay tuned.